in today's video, I'm going to share with you how I plan my week as both a homemaker and also as homeschooling. So I am a homeschool mom to two kids. If you don't know, I have an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old. They're in second and fifth grade currently. And I work part-time from home as well. So I kind of have to balance all three of those things together and put them into my time management. And I had a question recently on my channel where someone had asked me how I plan for homeschool. So I thought I would just put this all together in a video. So I hope that it's super helpful for you, whether you homeschool or work from home or not. But hopefully it just gives you some idea into how to manage your time. And then also sometimes it's just fun to see how other people do that. And then after I get done showing you my planner and how I plan for everything, I will give you a glimpse into our day. I just took just a standard Monday, which no day looks exactly the same around here, but I took our Monday and I just took little clips here and there from morning all the way until evening. So I will show you what our day looks like at the end of this video, or if you just want to fast forward to that and see that, it's up to you. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right in. I've used a variety of planners over the past 10 years, and I always use a monthly and weekly planner. That's what works best for me. And I also like to use a vertical layout. So there are some that are horizontal, and I've tried them before and they just don't work for me, but vertical works the best because I can just see the day and kind of work my way from morning to evening and just what's going on that day. So that works really well. Another thing, a tip that I have is that I always write in pencil because life happens and things change, and it's so much easier to just erase something than it is to write it out or cross it out or white it out with when I'm using pen. Okay, so before I even crack open my planner though, I like to use a free planner page from Bloom Planner, and I'll leave it linked below. You can actually just click on the link and it will open up to a PDF that you can download and print. And I like to use this to just plan out my ideal week. And I do this at the changing of different seasons. So when we started back for the school year, I planned out the week. And then again in the beginning of January, so when we had the new year, I said, okay, what's working really well in my week and what's not? And then I planned out my ideal week. That doesn't mean that everything happens exactly at this time, but it just gives me an idea. Okay, we're going to be homeschooling these days. These days, we're going to make appointments for as much as we can. On these days, we're going to be having a homeschool activity. Helps me plan for when I want to get work done, when I want to get cleaning done. And so just having a basic ideal weekly plan is my guide for each week. And I don't refer to it much anymore now that I've kind of got it in my head, but it was really helpful those first couple of weeks when I'm trying to set a new type of routine or schedule. So this is my first year actually using the Pop Run planner. I just discovered it on Amazon this year and I'm really loving it so far, but I've only been using it for 2 months now, January and February. And I like that there is not a lot of extras in there. I'm not one to enjoy putting in little stickers and taping things. I just like the basics and being able to write things down. So for each week, I always start with just the basics and I write down any events or any appointments that we have. And then I plan my meals around that. And so if I'll be out late one day, that means that or if I have like a especially busy day, I plan for an easy dinner that night. Now, sometimes the dinners get mixed around throughout the week, but I generally have a plan of at least 5 to 6, maybe even 7 sometimes meals for the week. So once I've written down appointments and meals, next I write down cleaning and organizing, just different tasks that I want to do, and I spread them out throughout the week. And so after that, I write down any random to-do lists that I have. So these are things that need to get done outside of my regular cleaning or just regular, homeschooling or work tasks. And finally, then I write out a work task list for the week. So once my planner is filled in with all of those different things, then I move on to our homeschool planning. So my kids have a daily checklist for chores and for schoolwork, and they thrive with these lists. And I don't have to keep reminding them over and over again of what needs to get done or what chores they need to do. They just refer to their checklist and they know exactly what is expected of them. And that's just been so helpful. So if you are a homeschooling mom, I definitely recommend using these checklists. There's a lot less nagging on my part and a lot less whining and arguing from my kids because they know what's expected of them. And so their checklists are divided up into each day of the week. And then each day is divided into two groups. So I have the chores on top, and then at the bottom is their schoolwork. So we have basically three different time frames in the morning that my kids work around to fit in their chores. So 7:30 is when they're allowed to come out of their rooms in the mornings. And sometimes they wake up earlier than that. I have one of my children likes to get up at 7 and the other one doesn't get up until the last minute. So she gets up at 7 and she goes and takes care of her morning chores, but she has to stay in her room. And she'll read, she'll do a craft, she'll play with her Barbies, any of that kind of stuff. But then 7:30 is when they can come on out and I'm ready to be a mom at that point. Now, of course, if they have to go to the bathroom or get a drink or there's an emergency, then they can come out. But 7:30 is just the time when I'm like, okay, now I can be mom for you. And I've finished my morning routine and gotten myself ready. So 7:30 is that for them. And then 8 o'clock is when we eat breakfast. So I put it usually on the counter and then the kids get it on their own. Sometimes I will eat with them, sometimes I won't. It just depends. If I'm hungry, I will eat, but I've been trying to eat when I'm only hungry. And so some mornings I'm not ready to eat at 8, so I just don't. After that, school starts at 8:30. So the kids just know that they're to have their morning chores done by the time school starts. And all of these chores are on their checklist. So they know exactly what needs to get done. It doesn't change from day to day. It's always the same thing. And I don't usually have to remind them. Sometimes I do if they're in a particular mood, but most of the time they get it done themselves and they take that responsibility. So those chores that they have in the morning are getting dressed, brushing their teeth and their hair, making their beds, and then putting their dirty laundry in the basement in the laundry room. So that has to be done before school, and it really doesn't take them very long to do. So then we start school at 8:30. They come to the table. We do Bible study fellowship, and so they have a workbook that they go through, and they sit down and they start that on their own. But I'm available to help them if they have any questions, and then I will often be cleaning up the kitchen during that time. So later in the day, they also have some chores. There's to put away their clean clothes, they have to pick up their rooms, and then they also help with cleanup after dinner and after lunch. They have a monthly chore that they work through as well. Well, it's for the month and they rotate, but it's daily chores and then also a weekly chore that they do. And so that just kind of changes depending on the month and what we have going on. On their checklist, they kind of just rotate, like I said. So sometimes they clean the toilets, sometimes they dust the TV stand, sometimes they vacuum, they wipe down the bathroom sink and countertops, they help with the laundry, they fold towels, and we just kind of rotate so they have something different that they're working on for an entire month. And that just helps build that skill up and it doesn't overwhelm them. And so that's at the top of their list. That's their chores. And then the bottom of their daily checklist is all of their schoolwork for the day. And then at the very, very bottom, I finally add any appointments or events that we have for that day because my kids are always wanting to know, what are we doing today? And so they'll say like, they would ask me that every single day. And so I just started like, okay, I'm just going to include that at the bottom of their checklist. They know what's ahead and they can prepare themselves. So that has worked out really well. So I have a template in Canva that I use and it generally stays the same, but I do type out any changes each week and add in any events or appointments. And then I print those out and I put those in their folders. They each have their own folder that they keep their checklists in. And then I also print out a math and a grammar worksheet each week. So, well, actually one for each day. So 5 math worksheets, 5 grammar worksheets that also get printed out. And then I put 1 grammar and 1 math worksheet in their folders each day, and that's what they're to complete during their independent time. So finally, I just look over the week ahead and I plan out our history and our science usually about every 6 weeks. So, and I write out the notes that we need and all of that. And so I just kind of glance over it and say, okay, what's coming up? Do I need any supplies for experiments or crafting that we're doing? And then I kind of look ahead at my kids' lessons. Their math books, their handwriting. I'm trying to think what else they have. That their grammar is broken up into lessons, and so they know they do a lesson each day. Now my son's grammar is a little different, and so I will do that with him. But he does about 2 to 4 pages a day, and he just knows that that's what he needs to do. And I'm usually right there with him, helping him with that. We also do reading together and spelling together. We're working through a book and we just do 10 minutes of reading and then we do 10 to 12 spelling words every day. And so that's something they do with me. Future Emily here. I feel like I did not do a great job explaining how I actually plan for the subjects. So I thought that I would show you really quickly and then we'll jump back in. So the first thing I do for history and science is I write down the dates and the days that we'll be doing them. So we skip Thursday because we have Bible study fellowship that day. And so basically 4 days out of the week. And our history is broken up into units, and each unit is to be completed one for a week. So there's 3 lessons in each unit. So we basically do 3 lessons a week. And then I usually have 1 day where we do reading. So you can see here I have the lesson, and then I have, if we have a rhythm and rhyme to do that day. This one we have a lesson, rhythm and rhyme, and then also our timeline pages. And that at the end of each of our lessons, we have activities. So we look on a map, and then it tells me if there's a rhythm and rhyme, if there's questions or a workbook. There's always a workbook lesson for the kids to do for each lesson. And then literature, we have review questions that we always go over. We don't usually do the hands-on stuff, but I plan based on what it tells me here. And here's our science. So again, I write out the dates and then the days that we'll be doing them. So I just have like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. So again, we skip Thursday. And our zoology for science is not broken up into actual like units, but there are 14 lessons total. And so I kind of just go based on some of these that they have broken up. And then I just kind of go through and say, okay, well, we are going to read these so many pages. We're going to do this activity this day. And the kids follow along in their notebooking journals. So they have different activities and they have questions to answer. We don't do all of them, as you can see, but we do a good amount of them. And sometimes for like the activities, here we just do them together, but we don't necessarily write about it. So I just take all of that and then I write it in here every 5 or 6 weeks. And that's how I plan for our group subjects for history and science. This is our individual work. So we have handwriting, math, and grammar. And the grammar has a different lesson, like a day. And so sometimes I'll say just do 1, or sometimes I'll tell her to do 2 lessons in 1 day. And then math, again, is broken up into lessons. So like this is exercise 1, day 32. And so we just do 1 of those a day. We don't, and then this is another day. And so I don't really necessarily have to plan anything, but I do always look ahead and say, okay, what's coming up for the week with math? And then handwriting, it's the same thing. It's broken up into lessons and days. So here's lesson 5, and then we have day 1. So she would just complete 1 of those each day. And I don't really necessarily have to plan anything. I just, like I said, look ahead and see what's coming up. And I know what they're going to be doing for the week. And when I go through my day here in just a little bit, I will talk to you about the curriculum that we use if you're interested in any of that. And I'll try to leave links below if you want to check any of it out. But then I'm done. That's the plan for the week. I use my planner like I showed you, and then I look ahead for homeschooling and make their checklists. And so I hope that that has been helpful to just get that glimpse into what we do and what works for us. Of course, what works for us may not work specifically for you. And I would just encourage you to take something from today and then apply it to your own family and see how it could be beneficial for you. So, this planning time takes me about an hour to do each week, and it's so very helpful. It's something that I know I want to do, and I stick to it every week because it just makes my life less stressful. I know what I am expecting myself to do for the week, I know how I'm going to accomplish those things. And I will say that not everything gets crossed off in my planner, and I'm okay with that. I go by the rule of picking what's most important and accomplishing that, and then the rest just gets moved to the next day or sometimes the next week if it doesn't get done that day. So anyways, that's it for the planning. Now I'm going to show you our day.
On a typical homeschool day, I get up at 6 in the morning and I always just follow the same routine. I make my bed, I get myself dressed and ready, get a shower, I put on a little bit of makeup, do a little bit of my hair, I put on clothes that make me feel good. I have a quiet time where I pray and read the Bible. I try to get in some exercise as well. And then I start breakfast. A lot of times breakfast around here is a fruit smoothie. Other days it is potatoes with eggs or bacon and cheese. Sometimes it's just muffins or toast. Sometimes it's yogurt with berries. We keep it pretty simple, but I try to make sure there's some kind of protein and some kind of a berry for breakfast. And then my kids follow their morning routine while I finish getting the kitchen cleaned up and getting homeschool set for the day. This year, we have been using Apologia's Zoology 1, and it has been the best science curriculum we have ever used. I heard about it through Geraldine at our homeschool table, so I will link her channel below if you ever want to learn anything about homeschooling. She is the most organized person on YouTube, but or as far as homeschooling goes, but I will leave that linked below if you are interested in that.
Do you remember what preening is? It's what a bird does when it hooks its barbules back together with its beak. To preen, the bird gently strokes or nibbles along the barbs of each feather, starting at the quill and working toward the tip so the barbules are properly hooked together. Watch the birds in your yard for signs of preening.
The next group subject we do is history, and we're using the Our Star Spangled Story Part 1 and 2 by Knotgrass History. I found out about this through Ashley at Grit and Grace. She's also a homeschooling channel. She does more vlog styles, but we have been loving this history, and I definitely recommend it for your elementary kids if you're looking for one.
Lesson 60.
Draw a line from each question to the matching state.
Okay. Used coal long before Europeans came to America. By the 1740s, European settlers used coal as well. As America grew, Americans needed more and more coal to provide fuel for their homes and businesses. You want to see the pictures of the coal miners?
I'm glad Daddy doesn't look like that.
And it was definitely hard. Which guy?
This guy.
Yeah, you can tell just looking at their faces and how they're dressed, like how difficult of a job it would have been.
Okay? You want to see? After we finish our lesson for history, then we do our read aloud for that time period. And right now we're doing Emily's Runaway Imagination. It's been so fun. My kids really enjoy the read alouds, and honestly, I do too. I talked about this I think in my last video, but it's just so fun to read these historical fiction books. Once we finish that, then we go on a break. Usually we go for a walk outside if the weather is cooperating. Otherwise, I'll just let them have like a 10-minute break. And I usually have to warm up my coffee at some point in the morning. And then on this particular day, I had a Walmart grocery order. And I use Walmart Plus where they just deliver the groceries to my house. And it's so much easier. I used to do the pickup, and which was very nice, but I always had to rush out of the house and go get it. And this way, I often have the groceries delivered to the house in the morning while we're doing homeschool, and it's just so nice. So I'm getting all of these pulled out while the kids go on a quick little break, and then my son's going to get started on his math, and I'll show you what I had for my grocery haul. This is what I had this day: some Greek yogurt, some cottage cheese. My husband takes those peanuts in his lunch, and then we were making some sandwiches that night, so I got that Kraft cheese, and then I always get shredded cheddar cheese blocks, and then we had shredded lettuce we like to put on tacos and just sandwiches and in a salad, and then I had tortilla shells and hamburger buns, a couple of jellies and flour and sugar. And then I'm also trying to replace some of my plastic plates with some Corelware. I am just I'm over the plastic. And so every time I have an order, I try to order like 1 or 2 plates or 1 or 2 bowls so that I can just kind of build up my stash of Corel plates and bowls so that we have enough to last for the entire day. And so I was just going to put these groceries away, and then we will jump into math. Bring the 8 down. 5 goes into 48 how many times? 9. Yep, 9 times 5 is what?
45.
45. And we subtract 48 minus 45 equals?
3.
3.
And then you bring the 5 down.
Okay.
How many times can 5 go into 35? 7 times.
Okay. So I do math, grammar, reading, and spelling with one child while the other child goes to their room and does handwriting and their worksheets. And then after that, if they've finished those, they can read, they can play, whatever. And then I'll switch and I'll do the second child. And so that's what we're doing here. And it works out really well to have them separated instead of at the table trying to work with one and then trying to work with the other. So that's what we're going to work on here.
Her dad is him, he, in a suit. Is he.
Is he. Her dad is he in a suit. And then how would we do the proof?
He is her dad in a suit.
He is her dad. He is her dad. Clock faces to match the times. So is the minute hand long or short? Long. And the hour hand is?
Short.
Short. Okay, so what does the first time say?
Blue spoon, youth group, Sue's approve.
We typically finish around noon, and then I get food out for lunch. Usually it's leftovers or sandwiches. And if my kids have passed a certain area on our behavior chart, then they get to listen to an audiobook. We're listening to the Boxcar Children currently. And so they listen to that while they eat lunch. It's kind of a nice break from having to talk, and they can just sit and eat and listen. And then they finish their chores, and I will often clean up the kitchen at this time. And then sometimes we will do a kind of just a rest time where they read. And then while they're reading, I will correct some of the schoolwork that I didn't correct earlier in the day. And then sometimes I don't. It just depends. But usually I get their corrections done either while they're doing their schoolwork. So like they'll finish math and then I'll correct it. And then they'll have to come back and make the changes on anything that they missed. or I'll just wait until after lunch and we'll make the corrections then. But I always make my kids correct their mistakes. And then typically at this time, my kids are ready for a little bit of a break and some free time, and I'm ready to get some things done on my list. So I had this pork roast cooking, and I just went ahead and pulled it apart and then got it ready to go into the refrigerator. And then I saved the pork broth for the freezer. And of course, while I was doing this, I stained my sweater. So I should have been wearing an apron, but I just thought, oh, I can do it quickly. Anyways, so I ended up changing my sweater and putting on a denim jacket. So that's why here I am folding some laundry really quickly. And I have a denim jacket on because after this, we needed to go run a few errands. I needed to run by the Home Depot and just pick up some paint samples and a new key, and then we needed our fire alarms redone, and so I had to pick up some new ones of those. And then the kids had a dentist appointment after that, so we had a pretty full afternoon, and then we came home. When we got home from the dentist, I had to quick put supper together. We just had Philly cheesesteak sandwiches and canned green beans, so it was really simple, but I did not have a chance to film myself making it. And then after dinner, we always clean up. The kids help me, and they have their different jobs for the week. And then after that, we like to go for an evening walk. And then it's kind of a chill. We try to not do a whole lot after our walk. The kids get baths, and then it's basically bedtime and we're ready for the morning. So I hope you enjoyed seeing all of the details to our day and how I balance homemaking and homeschooling. Make sure to check out any links below of things that you have questions about, or just leave your questions in the comments and I will do my best to answer them.